What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess, doing the mostest, Kivanchi, and we are here with NBC and Peacock's Found Season 2. Oh my God. First and foremost, congratulations, because the series got picked up for 22 episodes. Yes, 22 episodes. We are finally, slowly but surely, getting back to full seasons on network television. The first season was 13 episodes and we got in 22 episodes this season. I am super excited. I'm super proud of the creator and everybody that works on the show. They put in so much hard work, and honestly, I'm just really excited to see television getting back into looking for syndication, looking to actually be entertainment for people. And we actually get weekly releases again, and I think this is so good to just kind of like slow society down, slow the brain down, instead of getting batch series and then everybody's just constantly thirsting and thriving and fiending for more, and they don't know how to just sit down and enjoy things as they come. So I'm so happy for you, NBC. Thank you for giving this to us. Thank you for renewing it for another season. Here's to future seasons. If you cannot tell, I love the show. So I was fortunate enough to go to the American Black Film Festival back in June, and I got to sit on a panel with a few of the members from the cast, as well as the showrunner. And I got to ask questions, and then we ended up getting on a yacht party where I actually spoke to Arlen, Escarpeta, and Gabrielle, Walsh, like in depth, not only about their characters on the show, but just life in general. Such kind people, and you can just tell that they're passionate in real life, just by the conversations and stuff that we were having. So obviously, because I met them, I'm especially like proud of them and what they bring to the characters on the show. And Gabrielle Walsh is a fellow Chi-Town girly, so Chi-Town, stand up, you already know. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into Found Season 2, Episode 1, titled Missing While Bait. So the genre is crime, drama, and mystery. It was created by Nkechi Okoro Carroll, and she also wrote on this episode. The director for Episode 1 is Nikhil, Paniz. The DP is Anthony Hardwick, and our cast members are Shanola Hampton, who plays Gabi, and she's also credited as executive producer. Love her, she's so amazing. Gabrielle Walsh, who plays Lacey. Arlen Escarpeta as Zeke. Kelli Williams as Margaret. Karan Oberoi as Dhan. Brett Dalton as Trent. And Mark Paul Gosselaar as the one and only Sir. To know him as Zach from Saved by the Bell to like this, what an actor. You don't really see like a lot of transitions like that, especially for like heartthrobs and, you know, of the 90s and things of that nature. A lot of fans of 90s sitcoms and 90s comedies kind of like typecast and locked their favorite characters into only wanting to see them in a specific type of character. He's fully transformed. He's so scary. He's so mysterious. And he also like gets you to connect with his character, even though he's technically the antagonist in the situation. But what I love about the entire show is that nobody's like a full protagonist, nobody's like a full antagonist, and everybody's complicated backstories is what really drives the narrative forward. And it's why I see we have 22 episodes, because there's so much that you can do behind every character and every backstory. So with that, let's see, where are we? Let me catch y'all up on everything that happened in season 1. So Gabrielle Mosley, not to be confused with the real actress' real name. So Gabi Mosley runs a business where her and her team of associates of Mosley and Associates, they are kind of like, it's like they're the scandal group of this show. So they will work in tandem with law enforcement, FBI, and things of that nature, but they're not hired by them, and sometimes they're just like consulted by them, but they have their own group where they go and search for missing Black and brown children, missing kids who come from high risk families, so even if they're white or anything like that. So they're looking for people that the United States don't care about, the people that don't make the front page news or the headline stories. And the reason that they're all together is because they all have either been kidnapped or are family members of somebody that's been kidnapped. So in some way, shape, or form, they've been impacted by this. In Gabi and Lacey's case, Gabi was kidnapped by Sir and she was held captive for a year. During her time, he kind of did like dress up or like played house in a way with her, where it was almost like he was reliving his own childhood with his abusive mother. So it was like he was doing and repeating some of the abuse that his mother did, while also trying to get her to live in a very scripted way in which he wanted to exist with his own mom and his sibling that he had. In the midst of all of this, he was like loving Gabi, and he was her English teacher as well, but he was loving her, and he saw that she was lonely while kidnapped, so he kidnapped Lacey for her when she was younger. So I think Gabi was like 12 or 13 and Lacey was maybe 9 or 10 at the time. But it was when Lacey was kidnapped where Gabi was able to get the courage to really fight to get both of them out. It was almost as though she resigned herself to be held captive and to appease him. But once somebody else got brought into it, she had an overwhelming need to protect this other person more than protecting herself. So she was able to escape from him after a year in captivity. And Lacey was there for at least 6 months, I believe, if memory serves me well. Zeke also was kidnapped too. Zeke's kidnapping kind of manifested in a different way. So everybody has their own trauma response to this big traumatic event. Zeke was not born this way, but due to the length of time that he was held in captivity, he is now a like severe agoraphobe. So if you don't know anything about agoraphobia, just to sum it all up, it's just a fear of going outside. So wherever they call home and wherever they feel the most comfort, that's where they want to be. Any steps towards going outside or even passing out and waking up outside brings on such a severe panic attack that you end up having to be sedated and knocked out, and you become really violent and very disoriented because all you can do is be in like fight mode. It's not even like fight or flight. You're just in full fight mode, like a dementia patient or somebody with Alzheimer's that gets ridiculously confused and unaware of their surroundings and out of their comfort zone, that it just goes into like crazy violence. Margaret, her son, is still missing. And I can't remember Dhan's story. I want to say Dhan was kidnapped as well, but he's very, very close with Gabi. So think about Huck and Olivia. That's Dhan and Gabi's relationship. He will do anything for her, and he's like her hitter, like her confidant, and when she has to make very tough decisions that could get others to like turn their backs on her or that they would see as immoral or unethical, he is the one who would hold that secret and keep that like to himself for her, because he loves her that much and he feels that he owes her that much loyalty and that much devotion. So in season 1, we're solving these crimes, we're doing the thing. Gabi is a badass. Lacey also kind of has like similar skills as Gabi, just like a go-getter and going out there, but where Gabi is kind of hardened, Lacey has like she's the empath of the group, and she's really able to think about the person that was kidnapped and tap into the emotions and the things that they might feel, because she was so outwardly emotionally impacted by her own kidnapping. Zeke is the tech guy. He can break into anything, crack any code, look up any ATM machine, check credit cards, and do all those other things. So he's basically just a tech genius. I already said like Dhan is like the hitman. He's the one that's going to get his hands wet. Margaret has a very unique set of skills, which kind of has her in like a suspended state of depression and confusion, because she's like Monk. She can go into a crime scene and she'll video everything, and she'll go back and look at it, and she can visualize the events that took place wherever the crime is and piece those things together to see things the way that maybe a cop wouldn't see the things. So she's definitely able to have like an out-of-body experience and a bird's eye view of the full picture in order to help find kids. And I really, really love the things that she's able to do. The reason I say that she's crippled and depressed by it is because every night she goes back to the train station at the exact time that her son went missing, and her inner turmoil and her inner struggle is the fact that she's able to use her skills to find everybody else's child except her own. And that is so sad. And Kelli Williams, I love Kelli Williams as an actress so much, and she's just so able to capture like determination and despair at the same time. It's like you see her and she's determined to find these missing kids, but in that you just see anguish and pain. And it's like for every kid that she finds, she's going deeper and deeper and deeper into her own internal like spiral, because she cannot find her child, and he's been missing for years. And you know the laws of like first 48 hours, if you don't find them, chances of them being alive is, you know, slim to none. But there are a lot of times, unfortunately, that people are kidnapping kids because they want their own kid. They're selling them into like illegal adoption rings. You have human trafficking, sex trafficking, you have all these different things. So she goes back to the spot to try to use her skills to see like what did she miss, things of that nature. Trent is Gabi's like situationship. They had like a whole thing, and he was like confessing his love for her, but she's just like, look, you're good for knocking boots, but I don't want to do anything serious. And so, you know, he's just kind of like walking around with his tail tucked between his legs. He was going to give up everything for her, and she's like, listen, I love my job, you love your job, please don't do that. We're like, you're trying to give up your job just to get a title out of me. Like, that's something that you do for like marriage or for moving across the country. And then we have Sir, which I already talked a little bit about him, but his mother abused him, wouldn't let him eat, wouldn't let him leave the house. There was one situation where a neighbor kind of realized what was going on. She came in and snuck him food, and when the mom came home early, he was trying to like hurry up and get rid of the evidence of just eating, and she beat him. So, but then she would make them sit at the dinner table and like pretend to be normal. When the baby was crying, she would like yell at him or beat him to get the baby to be quiet. She had all types of men coming in and out. But she ended up dying in a house fire. And Sir like left and lived an otherwise normal life. But like I said at the beginning, everything is centered around trauma, and everybody's trauma is shared and connected. So I like to think of it as like The Walking Dead, where it's like you had, you know, Rick's crew, and then you had the Saviors, and then you had the Whisperers, and then you had the Governor's crew, and then all these other things. Everybody's motivation was based on a singular trauma of zombies killed my loved ones, right? So the motivation and the drive behind everybody making the decisions that they made was shared. But the way you took your trauma and then the way that you then acted out in the world is what made things different, but they were all on one thread. So with Found, that's why I say there's no real protagonist, there's no real antagonist, because as we're going into the recap of season 2 episode 1, Sir kidnapped Gabi, but Gabi never really got over it, even though outwardly she's like, okay, boom, it's been a whole bunch of years. And Sir is obsessed with her. She asked Dhan to find him. Now, Dhan thought that she was going to find him and kill him so that she could finally get it over with. But Gabi kidnapped him and kept him captive in a cell in the basement in her house. So all her friends, everybody, her situationship, everybody was coming over to the house. Nobody knew that he was down there. And she ended up having like a very difficult case, and she started using him to help solve cases. I'm trying to think of this show that aired on NBC back in the day where it was like a killer who was helping the cops find other killers. I can't remember, but basically, you know, she was using him like, okay, you're a kidnapper. He wasn't a killer, but you know, you're a kidnapper. And so what would they do? What are their patterns, things of that nature? And because he's so obsessed and has this warped love, I don't even know if it's like a romanticized relationship, because even when he kidnapped her when she was a child and he was clearly an adult, he wasn't trying to rape her. He wasn't grooming her or anything like that. It's just like he wanted a family. But now that they're both adults, it's kind of hard to tell if it's like a daughter thing, if it's a sister thing. You know, it's a very weird dynamic. But she began using his expertise to help solve cases. Whole bunch of shit came to head in the last season where she ended up having to tell Dhan and showing him that Sir was in the basement. So he was pissed and everything like that, but he was like, you know, why didn't you tell me? Like, me of all people. And he felt a little bit betrayed, but his connection to her is so deep and so embedded that he's gonna follow her to the ends of the earth. And something ended up happening where Dhan had to go to Sir as well. I want to say Gabi got kidnapped, if memory serves me well. And so he couldn't find her, and he's so emotionally close and so connected that he can't see the big picture. So he had to go to Sir. And so he now understood why Gabi was doing what she was doing in the first place. Everything came to a head, and Gabi ended up having to tell Lacey, Margaret, and Zeke, and everything just blew up. The biggest betrayal being Lacey, because Lacey, even after getting kidnapped, she kept seeing Sir like out her window or following her and this, that, and the third. And so it was like, once this kind of all came out, she's kind of like in a panicky mood, because she's like, no, he's really been like following me that whole time. Like, it's at this point, it's a confirmation for her. And the fact that her and Gabi had a shared experience with this man, and she kept it from her, when basically after their kidnapping, they just continued to be raised like sisters. It was the ultimate betrayal. And at the end of the season, of season 1, Gabi goes home. Some things is looking real weird in her house. And we see at the end, not only is Sir missing from the cell that was in the basement, we cut to it and Gabi's at home and she's dropping off her keys and she's there with her dog. And you see Sir hiding in Gabi's closet. And that was season 1. Lots of previously's on. I don't know what I'm saying. I be putting S's on everything, but it is what it is. I pretty much gave y'all an in-depth thing, so you're caught up. But if you want to go back and watch, get all of the deep ins and outs. Again, I'm only going to give you enough information to literally make you thirst for more. But I'm leaving out some juicy and good details because I need you to savor it. Every bite, every morsel, every ingredient, okay? Let it sit on your palate of your eyes and just digest it, because this is good freaking TV. Okay, so boom, we open up. Instantly, we're just in the throes of just drama. Gabi is on the phone with Dhan, panicking. She's like, yo, like, Sir is not in his cell, and all of my rat poisoning is missing. I think he's coming after all of us. Don't eat nothing, don't drink nothing, whatever you do. And so Dhan looks over at this glass of wine that he just poured. So he stops and he's like, okay, cool. Like, did you hit up everybody else? And she's like, ain't nobody talking to me. Like, I'm calling Lacey. Margaret's not answering. Zeke's not answering. I know everybody's mad. So can you please like try to call them? So Dhan's calling. He calls Marg, and she was over. I'm gonna just call her Maggie because Margaret is a lot. So he calls Maggie. She goes by Margaret, but I'm speaking fast. So he calls Maggie. She's at the train station, and she's like, I don't even want to talk to you. Like, if Gabi told you to call me, he was like, hey, don't eat nothing, don't drink nothing. Sir is missing. Lacey's not answering her phone. Zeke's not answering his phone. Gabby's gonna go over to Lacey's, I'm gonna head over to Zeke's, but you need to get back to M&A because like something is up. So Dhan heads over to Zeke's and Zeke is not answering, and Zeke kind of stays like in a bunker in a building. It's super decked out, but it's in a bunker, and he's not opening it, he's not answering it. And Dhan breaks in and he sees Zeke passed out on the floor, half dead. There's Chinese food like thrown about on the floor, so at this point there's an assumption that he was poisoned through like the delivery guy or whatever. They don't know like exactly what medium it is. He just knows that he was eating and he's now down on the floor, passed out, unresponsive. So Dhan calls the police, and then he calls Gabi to let her know what's up. And when Gabi answers the phone, she's like super panicky. She's barely speaking, barely breathing. And he's like, Gabi, like, what's up? Like, where's Lacey? Like, did you find her? And she's in an apartment and it's blood everywhere. Shit is knocked all over the place. And she just tells him, I can't. She's not here. Lacey is missing. And I think Sir has her. So Trent pops on the scene and he's gathering everybody at M&A. He's gathering everybody at the police station because, again, they've been working with this team for a long time. So it's kind of like a high profile and very important for them. It's kind of like, you know, that one of their own is missing. So they're trying to like get this team together while also heading over to the hospital to just see like what's up with Zeke, get a blood panel, like really find out like what's going on with him. And suspicions are confirmed that he was poisoned. But at this juncture, he was out for so long, like they were able to pump his system. They were able to give him like the antidotes and all the different things to be able to get the poison from his system. But they don't know if he's going to wake up or when he's going to wake up at all. So Gabi is just like, you know, I'll stay at the hospital. And Trent is like, don't you want to go look for Lacey? And she was like, Lacey is dead. Maggie like, bitch, done with you. You don't nobody even want you here. Why would you even say that Lacey is dead? Like, how dare you? Like, this is all your fault. And Trent's like, I don't know what's going on with y'all. Because the last time I saw y'all, like, y'all were cool. So what's up? And nobody's really saying anything. They all just go mute. And he's like, okay, well, whatever it is that y'all got going on, look, we'll stay here with Trent. We'll make sure like Sir doesn't come in, and, you know, we'll keep an eye on him. But in the meantime, we're going to act as though Lacey is alive. So go head back to M&A Associates. Do what you need to do. We'll get a team to do what we need to do on our side. We'll head back to the crime scene. We'll assess everything. We'll compare notes. But we will run point on this because you are way too close, way too emotionally invested in this. But Zeke ain't going nowhere. He going to be in his hospital bed. You know, his dad ends up showing up and they have like a strained relationship, but the dad walks in as they're kind of having this conversation and he's like, look, I got him. I will look after him. Like, this is my son. Lacey is like family to y'all. And, you know, this family member, he's going to be okay right now. Let's go and make sure our other family member is okay. So it's basically Gabi and Dhan versus Maggie, and Trent's just kind of looking around like, what the hell is going on? But they all decide like, okay, let's put Lacey first. Let's figure out where Sir is and what's going on, if she's alive, if not, and, you know, let's just do our jobs. So everybody's out doing their own tasks and things like that, and then they finally meet back at M&A, and Maggie's like, look, you need to tell me everything because this is the only way that we're gonna find it. And so Gabi's like, okay, well, you know, he kept us captive. And she's like, no. Sit your ass down. Because what I want to know is everything about Sir that you know from back then and what you know from keeping him captive for almost a year in your house. So Gabi sits down. She's in the hot seat and she kind of disassociates in a way. So she's telling him, like, she's telling Maggie, you know, she knows what brand. She was like, well, first and foremost, he's probably gonna go get this dye, brunette number Z8162 with this razor, single blade. And she's like, you know what brand of like razor and shaving cream and dye that he uses? And so Dhan was like, you know, he made her shave him every day when she was held captive. So Dhan knows a lot about Gabi's captivity at this point. So we find out that he knows more about Gabi's captivity and subsequently Lacey's captivity than anybody else on the team. So Margaret kind of like is thrown and can't even really handle the interrogation that she's forcing. And Gabi steps in and she's like, no, thank you, Dhan, but I got it. Not only did I shave him there, but I was shaving him every day while he was here. And so Maggie's like, this is a very sick and fucking twisted relationship. And Gabi's like, I'm not saying that it has to make sense to you. You asked. I'm telling you exactly what it is. These are the things that we discussed. These are the things that's there. He most likely took Lacey to get to me because he has some sick and twisted relationship with me. And unfortunately, I'm figuring out in these moments and over the course of 9 months in my whole M&A Associates team being blown up that I also have some sick and twisted relationship with him as well. But right now, we can't really focus on that because we really need to be finding Lacey. And it was in one of them situations where Maggie asked for something that she wasn't really prepared to listen to because she's still in a very judgmental state and she's in a very black and white situation. You kidnapped your kidnapper and then you didn't tell us. So right now she's just kind of operating in the you're wrong type of things and not in the gray of things or even looking at it from the point of view of the victim having some type of Stockholm syndrome. And honestly, I don't know that the character, I don't know yet. I don't know that the character Margaret has an implicit bias to where she feels that because Gabi is such a strong black woman, because she's leading the team in such a strong way, that she's somehow immune or impervious to some form of Stockholm syndrome and some form of love within a trauma bond with her own kidnapper. It's almost like she gives the grace to the other people that were kidnapped in the ways in which they end up bonding with the person that traumatized them and ripped them from their own families. She's able to connect to them in that way. But because her own kid is missing and because Gabi never really came off as helpless or hopeless, I feel that there's an implicit bias where she's not allowing her the grace or the room to really see that it doesn't matter that she escaped all those years ago. Mentally and emotionally, she was still trapped. And she still is trapped. So hopefully we get to explore that. Again, lots of Scandal parallels. And the reason I can relate it to Scandal is because I just watched Scandal last year. So it's like super fresh in my mind. At how similar it is in a way, but more so the trauma of it all, and really highlighting that just because you're a strong black woman doesn't mean that you're incapable of feeling or incapable of being broken. And right now we're seeing a broken Gabi. She is shattered and pieces of her are falling off of her as every confrontation within the people of her team, the people that she considered family, is now breaking her apart because they're all threatening to abandon her at a moment where she most likely needs them the most. Trent comes in and he's like, all right, y'all, we got the test back on the blood up in the house and we got 2 hits. And Gabi's like, oh, neg, and be positive or something like that. It's something like that. And he was like, yeah, how do you know? And so everybody shuts up and Trent's like, okay, what the hell is going on? Because if we're gonna work together, like, we're gonna need to be honest with each other, and something is happening here and it's really bothering me and it's getting in the way. And Dhan's like, look, you know all that you need to know. And Gabi's like, you know what, it's gonna come out eventually, and at this point, no more secrets. So she tells Trent that for the past 9 months or so, she kidnapped her and had him in the basement. And oh my God, he was already on my nerves in season 1, but he literally turned this whole thing into him. So the whole time I was confessing my feelings, he was down in the basement. I was ready to give up my badge for you. I was ready to give up my career for you. And it's like, I watched all 13 episodes and she didn't ask you to do that. She was very clear that she didn't want anything deeper than a sexual relationship with you and a professional relationship with you. So for you to have this sense of entitlement over betrayal because of however it was that she decided to deal with Sir is like beyond the scope of you being a cop and just being like, hey, you committed a crime. Like, he's very much emotionally invested in the fact that she didn't tell him about it in the first place and that he feels bamboozled like everybody else. But he's blending his emotional response with his officer duties. And so she's like, look, you can arrest me after we find Lacey. And he's like, you got 72 hours. Shut up. So here they all are trying to find Lacey, and now here he is shooting daggers, and what else did you tell me, and what else? And I'm just like, oh my God. And they say women are emotional. Like, oh my God, there's nothing worse than a man who's been rejected. Like, at this point, he might as well say, I ain't want you anyway because you ugly. Like, that's how he's acting. Like, he's acting like he never wanted her, and he's so disgusted and repulsed by her. It's annoying. So Gabi's like, look, I ain't even got time for this. He playing with us. I know how to get him. I know how he thinks. And they're all like disgusted, but you're running into dead ends. So Gabi's like, yeah, watch me work. So she does a press conference and she's giving the message and she's letting them know, you know, myself and Lacey were kidnapped by Sir all these years ago. This is how we met and all these other things. And, you know, I want to quote, you know, this thing from one of Gabi's favorite books, and she gives a quote that she says is Plato, but it's really Socrates. And the people at M&A, Trent was like, either Trent or Margaret was like, why is she quoting Socrates? And that's not even like Lacey's favorite book. And Dhan was like, this is something that they read and what they talked about when she was held captive with him. It's a message directly to Sir, so specifically meant for him. So again, showing that Dhan knows basically everything about Gabi and the rest of the team doesn't. And Margaret is kind of sad because it's more like a stab wound that she didn't know Gabi as well as she thought she did. And that could also be a little hurtful because it's like, damn, I thought we could trust each other that much. But if you watch season 1, Maggie is not really trusting them with all the things that she's dealing with either. So it's a little bit hypocritical, but I definitely understand that all of these things are coming out. Your friend is missing, and you're finding out that there was these like subgroups within this giant group where y'all all basically lied to each other's faces and was like, we're never gonna keep any secrets. And it's nothing but secrets. So you're now questioning if the foundation of everything that you have is just based on a lie. But anyways, it works and Sir responds, but we never see him ever. But he ends up leaving a clue behind and a book, but he's toying with him. But Gabi knows he got the message, and she knows that they're looking for him and that he's watching. So now we get into this cat and mouse game, and you get into the psychological aspects of it all. And their relationship reminds me of my favorite book, my favorite like thriller horror book by Dean Koontz, who's my favorite author, and it's called Intensity. And this psychologist basically ends up getting held captive by a serial killer, but they play this like mental mind game. He doesn't really kill her as fast as he killed everybody else because he's fascinated by her and he's intrigued by her, and so is she. And so they're getting into each other's minds, and it's a dangerous game of, is she gonna get into his mind enough to get him to let down his defenses so that she can win, or is he gonna get into her mind enough to make her tap into the primal version of her that could be a killer? So in this, the whole team is watching Gabi from the outside looking in and getting a glimpse into the twisted connection that she has with Sir. And I love it. I love Shanola and Mark Paul Gosselaar's chemistry, just all in season 1. Like, I just love it. It's so sick, but it's like with love. I don't know how they're able to do it. They're amazing actors, where it's like sick in love. Like, it's like you see how Stockholm syndrome is born, not just from a textbook or not after finding someone who was kidnapped and you're wondering why do they want to go back to their kidnapper or why do they want to stay. You get to see the textbook stuff play out on screen in front of you. So good. Zeke wakes up, guys, and it is not pretty. The whole team goes into the room. He's in there fighting the doctors. They got some syringes. They in there with the people to like take you down. It's basically paging Dr. Strong, okay? Code gray. You have a combative patient in here. So everybody runs in, but then Zeke ends up seeing Gabi and it just escalates. So Margaret is like, get the hell out of the room because you're triggering him. And the dad is in the room and all this other stuff. So the doctor's like, we need to sedate him. He's violent. He's a harm to himself. He's a harm to others. And Margaret and Dhan are like getting him and they're like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Like, Zeke, just calm down. Just look at me. Like, keep your eyes on me. And Dhan is like, we need to get him back to his home. Is there a way? Send us home with the medication that he needs, the treatment plan that he needs. We can get a nurse to come over there with us, but he has to get out of here. He has severe agoraphobia and keeping him in this place is not going to be good. So one of the strains in the relationship between Zeke and his dad is that ever since Zeke came back from being like kidnapped, he's functioning and he's intelligent, but he does not come out. And it kind of put a strain in the relationship because the dad doesn't really understand and you just want your son back. So this was a moment of vulnerability and understanding where Dhan and Margaret are begging the dad, like, please do what's best for Zeke. So the dad looks to the doctor because at this point he has, he's like the medical decision maker over his son. And he's like, send us home with everything that we need and with a provider or with a nurse, all the IV bags, everything, and we're gonna get him home and we'll just treat him from home. And if anything happens, you know, we'll call some people to come in. And so they leave. Gabi goes into the waiting room feeling rejected and dejected and just basically like shit when Lacey's mom comes in. And Lacey's mom was like a mom to her. So this is the first time we see Gabi just go over and actually break down and have emotions behind this. And we get into a flashback where we kind of see how their relationship was born. After Lacey returned home, she did not talk. She became mute and she just stared out of her window all the time. And she would see Sir, but then she would cover her eyes and look again and she wouldn't see him. And she was just in a state of panic all the time. She barely slept and her mom just was crying like, what do you do? And like, what do you say? How do you get through to your child? So one night, she was like, you know, baby, I know you're not talking to me, but I think I know someone who you may be able to talk to. And she ended up reaching out to Gabi's dad and asked if Gabi could come over. And when Lacey saw Gabi, she hugged her and she finally started talking. And Gabi ended up bringing her a book. And Lacey's mom watched Gabi read this book to Lacey and they're bonding and they're doing all those other things. So that's kind of like how their relationship was born and why it makes sense that this would be the woman that Gabi finally breaks down with, because that's her mother. Like, this is the one person that won't judge her and the one person that understands and allows her the grace to be soft, to be broken, and to be fully seen. So they're back at headquarters and Lacey's mom is telling Gabi, you know, like, I know my daughter, she is a fighter and she is alive. And Zeke is like, I absolutely know that she is, because Gabi has been planning for Sir this entire time. So Zeke and Gabi kind of have this little relationship, this little bestieism. Maybe he likes her. I'm not sure, but it's so pure and it's so beautiful. It's like watching two like second graders on a playground share sandwiches and share comic books and pick like bugs up with each other. They're not doing anything that's overtly sexual or inappropriate or anything like that, but it's just a pure growth and a pure love with them. And you see the child in them shine the brightest when they're around one another. So he informs Gabi, like, she had weapons stashed all over that house because she knew that he was watching her and that he would come back one day, and that she's always been prepared. So Gabi is now getting, you know, a little bit more information on, okay, Lacey is not as helpless as she thought she was. So all these years where she thought that she was protecting Lacey by keeping this information from her, she's realizing that Lacey is not that helpless, and there's a little bit of pride there, because hopefully if they get Lacey back, and you know, after Lacey cusses her out again, she can actually look at Lacey as an equal and not see her as the little girl that she helped escape when they were kidnapped as kids. Zeke ends up finding something, and they end up getting a lead on where they think Sir might be with Lacey. So they pull up at this house and they see like clothes and stuff burning in a barrel outside of the house. They go inside, and Trent and Gabi are in there first. They go into a bathroom and everything is looking damp, it's looking wet, and so they know that he was just there, but they're not there anymore. So Trent kind of like looks at the mirror and it looks weird. You know, when you've been in the shower, okay, so this happens to me often. It'd be scaring the shit out of me. I'd be scaring myself. I'll like kill a gnat on the glass. So I'll like smack it with my hand, right? Cool, I don't think nothing of it, whatever. I'll go get in a hot shower, and then I'll come out and I'll see a handprint, and I'm like, oh shit, like is it a ghost? But I just forgot to clean the mirror after I smacked it. So he sees something, but he doesn't know what it is, so he turns the shower back on with the steam, and he looks to Gabi, and she's like, okay. And she's like, I don't know what that means. And so they think like it's a message from Sir to Gabi, but she's like, okay, at this point, we've been like telecommunicating, but I don't know what the hell this is. So they leave, and they're kind of feeling just a little bit defeated. So they go back to headquarters, and they're watching the video that Margaret took again. So Zeke is like, pull up this video and let's see. So Zeke had the video, and he kind of reconstructed what the fight would look like between them. That proves that Lacey left that house alive. So they're going through everything, and we're kind of seeing like the reenactment, like the digital design of the fight. And you can see that like Lacey is landing some blows on Sir. So that's why you see a mix of their blood, because baby girl was beating that ass. And they get to one part, and Gabi's like, can you go back and then zoom in on the bookshelf? And she sees the book titled Dot and the Kangaroo. That is the book that Gabi brought that ended up getting Lacey to speak for the first time since her kidnapping. And the mom is like, yeah, like this is the book that Gabi gave. So Gabi's like, that wasn't a message from Sir. That was a message from Lacey. So there's this renewed energy knowing that he had just left from this cabin, and that Lacey is alive, and that Lacey is also trying to send her own messages and breadcrumbs that only Gabi would even know. So guys, Lacey is alive at this point. So they're trying to like go back to the drawing board, and they're trying to like gather some things, and everybody kind of disperse. But Gabi pulls the book that was left when Sir was toying with them, and she's opening it up, and there's all these different clues across different pages. And this is a book that he used to have her read, and they used to like kind of act out when she was kidnapped. And so she's decoding this message, and it ends up being a phone number. So she hurries up and leaves M&A Associates. She doesn't call anybody, and she heads to the payphone that, after she Googled like the phone number, like where it was and what it led to, she heads there. So she's looking around. She doesn't see anybody, but then the payphone rings. Hello, Gabi. So there's that. Season 2, episode 1 of Found. Ah! What an explosive start to a season. Like when I tell you we jumped into the middle of it, like wasn't no previously on. The screen came on and we're in a panic. Where the hell is Lacey? Oh my God. If they don't get a renewal off the first episode alone, I'm driving down to NBC Universal and we're gonna have a chat, okay? Like, it's gonna be us, mano y mano, okay? Cara a cara, face to face, because what an episode. When I tell y'all, like, since the writer's strike and the actor's strike, writers are coming back beating our asses with these storylines. Like, oh my God, the writing is phenomenal. The creativity and the depth in which people are going into the plot, the character development, the visuals, the directors are directing, the cinematographers, the editors, costume design, like, shit is looking so good. Like, TV is back. I feel so rejuvenated, and I just feel so happy, and I just feel so excited, and it's just infused as I'm watching the show. So obviously season 2 episode 1, 10 out of 10 is insane. I already gave a lot. You already know how I feel because I said all of it at the beginning, but man, there was a lot of stuff that there were key things that I left out. Go watch the show. There were very key things that I left out because you really need to watch it in order to dive into the relationships and the complexities of everybody involved so that we can make miseducated guesses on the way this is going to play out over the course of 22 episodes. Season 1 had 13 episodes, so it was kind of easy to kind of like jump into the next episode and really guess what's going on. But now that we have almost double the amount of episodes, we really get to lay out certain things and really lean into the fracture of the relationships and get a lot more backstory on how Margaret and Gabi met and how she met each individual person. Maybe we get to see the kidnapping of Arlen and what that looks like with agoraphobia. And particularly the conversation that I had with Arlen when we were on the yacht was about not only being a black guy in tech in this show, but being a black guy in tech with a disability like agoraphobia and still being able to bring so much compassion to it without making it a caricature of what we might look up on when you just Google like the meaning of what it is and the severities of what it is. He's really able to deep dive into the intricacies of what that looks like and the wanting to go outside and what it looks like to feel like you're not yourself and to feel that loss of your entire life because of this singular event. But then what does it look like when you have a crush on someone, or if you're trying to date or just trying to go outside and get food? In season 1, there was a girl who was like sick and she needed help, and he really wanted to help her, but he could not go out and do it and almost passed out. So he brings so much brevity and just so much like knowledge. Like, I'm learning so much just about this condition in his character when it's not even necessarily like the forefront of the character. But now that we have 22 episodes, hopefully we really bring that in there. We go back and see when Margaret's son was kidnapped. Is she trapped because she feels that she should be able to find him, or did she have a broken relationship with her son and there's a guilt, and maybe she like was upset with him that day and then he got kidnapped and so now she's blaming herself? We don't know, but now we have all the time in the world to really build that. And it gives us time to also see Gabi break down. We didn't see Gabi break down in season 1. She was just on it. She was on go. Like, nothing's going to affect her. If she was close to tears, she pulled it all back together and she's leading her team. But now we really get to see what this relationship actually entailed. And her dad's not even alive anymore. So the next thing that she has that's alive is her kidnapper. The person who caused her the greatest trauma in her life is the person that she's most closest to that's still living. That's crazy. And it's genius. With that is gonna wrap up today's episode, y'all. I'm coming here week after week after week, okay? Tune in every Wednesday, NBC, 10/9 Central. Found. It airs immediately after the new season of Law & Order SVU. Normally I would post these on Wednesdays, but I'm watching my Law & Order and I really need to digest everything that's happening with this show. So we're bringing you these on Thursdays, which is fun because then I get to talk about it like 2-3 days in a row. But yeah, if you like this, thumbs up, share, subscribe, notification bell, leave a comment in the comment box below. Let me know what you think about this episode. Follow me not only on Spotify, but also on Apple Podcasts, as well as Instagram at So There's a Podcast. And catch me cutting up on Twitter. Okay, Twitter's real daddy named it Twitter, so I'm gonna call it Twitter. At Kivanchi, because baby, I goes in and I get a lot more reactions that have nothing to do with like the backgrounds of the cast, the characters, or anything like that. Really just raw reactions of like everything that's going on. And I rewatch a lot of shows over and over and over. So while I may give like my take of something here as like a first impression, I'm on Twitter like, oh my God, but what about this and what about this? Along with everybody else, we're just challenging each other with our own theories. And so it's ever changing. And it's just fun. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up today's episode and I will catch y'all in the next one. Thank you so much for watching movies and TV with me, and I will see y'all soon.